That's it. All right, you guys shoot. Go ahead.
You put together a team. You know recruits from all over the place, and when you get on the court for the first time, is it like, ooh, gosh, is this going to work? Is that what it's like for you now?
Of course, yeah. I think you're always, you have a mix of guys. You got 5 returners that have varying levels of experience for us. When you look at like Robbie and Kalu and Amari and Dylan and KT, then you have like 6 transfers. Which I think 4 of them were out there today. Brady's still recovering from surgery he had, and should be cleared next week. And Dion had to run home for a family emergency, but he's been out there the first few days. And then you've got 4 freshmen. When you look at Jax, who's recovering from an accident that he had before he got here, and then the other 3, Bedara, Cam's at graduation, back home for his high school graduation. And then Luke Lechkowski. So it's almost like in 3 different pods of guys. And so, but no, you always are concerned. How's it going to fit together? How the piece of the puzzle. It's a big difference in recruiting talent and putting a team together. Just because you have talented guys doesn't mean it's going to be a good basketball team. There's a lot of things that look good on paper, but games aren't played on paper. So how do they fit together? How do they work? How do they, are they a group? We talk a lot about, compounding. Are they a group that compounds each other, offensively, defensively, and in the locker room? And, that's we know we have really good talent. We know we have really good depth. We got a high character group of guys. It's a really high quality group of young men. The other stuff is the questions we got to answer.
You went to 15, maybe surprisingly so.
No one more surprised than me.
Plus your walk-ons, and we're still waiting on this, obviously the house thing. But do you worry now about how you're going to manage having this many guys, or does that come later in terms of we want guys to redshirt? Yeah,
I think we got to see. Look, you're not going to play 15 guys. They know that. So that's not plausible. Could we play? Are we going to play more guys? I think our depth's really good. Could we play 9, 10 guys consistently? I think so. It's too early to tell, but I think we could be deep enough where 9 is a consistent number. And that would be more like the 22-23 team we had at Indiana State, where I think we had 10 guys average double-digit minutes. But you're not going to play 15 guys. There's not enough 200-minute pie. You're not going to do that. So whether we redshirt guys, I think there's a chance that this fall that they could go to basically, no red shirts and 5 years of eligibility for everybody. I think there's a decent chance that gets passed. And so if that actually goes down, then you wouldn't have to worry about that. Everybody just have 5 years. But, the thing is, and I said this in the first meeting, we don't promise anybody playing time or roles. Like, we never promised that. Didn't promise Robbie that to return. Didn't promise Trey Green that to come here. Didn't promise that to Paul Otieno. No one was promised a role or playing time. What we do absolutely promise every recruit is you're going to be a part of an unbelievable culture. You're going to be in a work environment that's going to allow you to become the best version of yourself as a player. And you're going to get every opportunity to get everything you earn. Doesn't matter if you're a freshman, returner, senior, and we're going to keep an open mind throughout the process. And so, that we will fulfill that. We are going to, we're going to give them a great culture. We're going to put them in a work environment that allows them to be the best version, and they will get everything they earn. And we're going to keep an open mind. Just because something is in June doesn't mean it is in February. And I think, Amari's a great example of that from last year. His minutes were certainly fluctuated, throughout most of the season. And, he kind of came on for him, flickered on for him there in February. And, his minutes and his play, continued to move in a positive direction. So, everybody's coming in with that mentality. But the great thing for depth, people, depth, the 2 best parts about depth are the level of competition it creates in practice. Like when we're out there and we have the other 4 guys who aren't practicing with the 11, that you guys saw out there. Practices are going to be brutal, and iron sharpens iron. And when you practice like that every day, that's how you get better. The second great part is if guys aren't doing what you want, there's no better motivator than the bench. And it gives you the hammer as the coach. You have the hammer because you're not doing it. I'm going to put somebody else in who is. and you're just going to sit. Last year, there wasn't much of a hammer. I had to, beg and plead. There'll be less begging and pleading, and more just, hey, this is what it is. If you're not going to do it, we're going to put somebody out there who's going to.
How much of the numbers increase was just a reaction to last year? Not so much just the hammer part, but just having that the numbers, at the end of last season where you just clearly didn't.
No, I think there was a lot that going through last year that was eye-opening, or hey, maybe like we have to really be thoughtful about this. And so one of those aspects was we got to be much deeper. Now you can't ever account for, hey, we're going to, have 4 guys gone for the season by December 1st. I don't think, I've coached this my 27 years previously, that's never happened. But depth is vital. And going through this league, how physical it is, the stretches of games, we wore down, there was no question. We were a fatigue group, and we really, hit the wall kind of right before we had that bye late. We had that week bye, which really rejuvenated us. We won 5 out of 6 coming out of the bye. And then, by the NIT, we were shot, in terms of that. And so, certainly really being, I think depth's great for those reasons, but certainly going through the league one time, our goal is to be able to play, 8, 9 guys on a consistent basis and be able to have a group that has that kind of depth. And then you got to account for there's going to be injuries, illnesses, things like that occur during a season, and you got to have a group that you can go to where you can win games when you're missing guys. And so we really were cognizant of that. We that's why we weren't worried about, hey, we got 5 guys back, 5 or top 8 scorers back. We went in after these 6 guys in the portal, got them, and these young guys coming in, and 15 is a great number for us, and now they'll sort themselves out in terms of the rotation. But it was certainly a very conscious decision coming out of last year that we needed to improve in a lot of areas, but depth was at the top of the list.
What do you expect out of a senior Robbie Avila, especially with Gibson and Isaiah gone? He was already a voice and a presence out there, but this year it seems like it's probably even more important.
Yeah, Robbie's a guy that, I think is 1 or 2 returning all-league players. He'll likely be the preseason player of the year in the league. And he's a guy that lives and breathes our culture. He understands it. He understands what to do. He brings the vision for, what we want to do to life in a locker room. He's got, he understands the game at a high level. He's constantly coaching. He's like, everybody used to say he was like, the best volunteer assistant, and he's no longer volunteering. He's now a very well-paid assistant. His ability to translate knowledge, to get those guys to understand. He's coaching Trey on what he can do better. He beats me to certain things, with coaching guys and helping guys, and he does that in the locker room. And I think, we put a lot on his plate last year. He had a rough year in terms of, the injuries, everything he dealt with, the ankle sprains, the end of the year, the tendonitis in his knees. But he fought through everything. I think it was, we talked a lot about that last year, growth, life is not linear. Last year was his toughest year. He's had a pretty charmed existence. He was a great high school player, came to college, December of his freshman year, he's a starter. He turns into a really good player. We win, 23, 24 games. Next year, he's a national phenomenon. We win 32 games. He comes here. He really hadn't. And where we grow, we need friction. We need resistance. We need adversity. We need valleys to drive growth, to facilitate growth. Like, you need those. You have to, those are usually, we say, trampolines. The bounce at his lowest point. So, I think he's had a good off season. I think he took stock of what he needed to do. Robbie's very self-aware, and I think he's come back with a great mentality. We're going to, I think, put a team around him that's going to help him to compound him, amplify him. But he's also going to amplify and really, really help those guys.
Is he making more than assistant coaches?
He's, it's a dicey one. We'll keep that secret. It's a private school. He's a very well-paid assistant. I'll say that. He better earn his money.
How have you seen him sort of internalize that last season, like you talked about, the adjustment, the ups and downs, and what do you think that means for him going forward? What do you expect that will look like going forward?
Yeah, I think he had that stretch. He had 3, really, for him, subpar games, and look, no one's immune to that. This is, every the way society is today, like every possession, I'd say every game, but every possession is a referendum on your career and how you are as a player and who you are as a coach. And And so, it is hard to play great every single night, and again, there's no excuses. I mean, he had his stuff he dealt with. He missed a ton of time. I think, talked about last year, maybe 60 days from September 27th, Billy Kamanis, when he sprained his ankle the first time, to coming back. He missed like 52 out of 60 days. And then he's right into playing games. And for outside people, it's like, hey, you should be ready to go. And it does take a while. And so, but I think the league certainly, the athleticism, the size, the way he was guarded, the schemes he saw, people built their defense to take him away. It was like people weren't, like, they're guarding Clue a certain way because they were going to take Robbie away. So they were trying to guard him with guards and be physical with him and take away his pick and pop threes. And he's having to adjust. That's part of your growth as a player. As you become a good player, teams scheme for you and try to take away the things you do well. Now you got to figure out other ways and attack these new ways. That's how you unlock different parts of your game. And so, he's worked hard on that. I think, it's on us to surround him. We put a lot on his plate where, we had to manufacture so many of our paint touches. We didn't get it organically, and we didn't have enough shooting. And so those two things, we put a lot of playmaking on his plate, and he had to carry a massive load for us offensively. I think for him, less is going to be more, and for a lot of these guys. And less, I mean, he's going to play less minutes. He's going to have the ball less. And because he plays less minutes and he has the ball less and he's going to have less playmaking responsibilities, I think he's going to be more efficient inside of that. And that less is going to actually help him to be a more efficient, more impactful player, I think, than he was last year. And I think the experience going through the goods, bads, losing 15 games, having the struggles, he's self-aware enough, he's humble enough that he's going to be better. He's going to learn. We always talk about learning and growing from experiences. Robbie does that as well as any human being I've met.
Talk about the unexpected having Bedara. Talk about that situation and how it comes about and what it means for you.
Yeah, I mean, it was, we really thought we were done. I mean, we were at 13 and we didn't know Kellen's situation. And Kellen's situation fell in a way that was positive. So we knew we were hopeful of that, but we didn't know that. He was going to go and see specialists and see, was he going to be able to play or not play? We were going to, have him here, but was it, would he be allowed to play? And he was, which was great news. And so we were really at that point felt like we were done. We had 14. We were, tapped out. From a financial standpoint, we were set. And Bedara's deal kind of came out left field. Antone Gray came to me with, he has a connection to one of his AAU people. We knew Bedara had signed at Iowa. That he'd been released from his letter of intent when that coaching transition. But you're sitting there going like, he's a 4-star guy, top 125 player in the country, 6'10". But, when I talked to his AAU guy, there was a lot of, I explained our situation and said, this is where we are with it. And also explained, hey, we got 3 seniors that can play the 5 when you look at, and the 4 with Robbie Avila, Paulo Tieno, Kuluanya that can play, and we got Amari McCautry and Brady Dunlop and other guys that can, also play the 4. It's going to be a crowded house down there. But they wanted the development. They wanted to send him somewhere. They felt like he could get better. They wanted to have a big picture perspective on, hey, Bedara has all this potential. He's raw. Where do we send him that we think is going to do the best job of developing him? And I didn't really feel like for a while that it was going to happen, and then and then it all happened pretty quickly. It was like you're sitting there going, he's obviously eventually going to wind up somewhere else. We just don't have enough to attract him. But they were, his people were very, very adamant about, hey, we want to send him to the best place to develop him, and we're not looking at this in a 1-year snapshot. We're looking at this over time. We think Bedara has potential to really be an unbelievable player, and they want to send him somewhere they thought could get the most out of him. And so we're excited to have him. I think he's a guy with, tremendous upside. His mobility at 6'10", you guys saw today the play. He sprints over and gets that block on Amari, and he does stuff. He doesn't know what he's doing yet, but he does things where you're like, you can see as he figures stuff out, he's got a chance to be a very good player. And it's rare, you get this class of, everybody talks about the portal guys, which we're excited about, but 2 4-star big guys in Jax Kerr and Bedara, and then 2 guys in Cam Hudson and Luke Lechkowski that we love. And those 4 guys are guys that I think at our level, the key is you have to constantly layer in good young players if you're going to do this. If you don't have bottomless resources, you have to be able to layer in good young players, develop those guys, and that ability to retain those guys, to have continuity. I say that over and over again. Continuity is the key. Retention is the key. So layering in those 4 guys, getting them here, keeping them here, that's going to be huge for us as we move forward. We want to be, much more about retention and less on the portal each year.
So when did you know for sure you'd have him?
Probably a day or 2 before he showed up. So, I think he graduated on Saturday. They called us on Sunday or Monday and told us he was coming. And then he, then we had to go through the process of getting him admitted and getting his transcripts in and all that stuff. And so, and then he was here. He flew in on Friday. So it was pretty quick. Once it got going, he got admitted, I think, Wednesday night or Thursday morning, and he was here Friday for physicals and rolling. So it happened. Once it happened, it was very, very fast.
So Kellen's situation, is he good to go, or would you still have to watch things with him?
Well, we're always going to monitor. I mean, but he's not been there. There's no restrictions. They're trying some different stuff in terms of electrolytes and monitoring it. They think it's more of a, they thought maybe some different stuff early, and which was scary stuff, and now it's more of they feel like it's electrolytes and how he sweats and how much sweat he loses, and so drinking water doesn't really help, even though they were loading him up on water, even Gatorade. So trying to get him on some other stuff. There's liquid IV, different things that you can drink that try to keep his levels up, and so right now it's going to be trial and error this summer. And we'll see how he feels. How does he feel post-workout? Right now, 3 practices in, 4 days in, he's doing great. He feels fine. He's not had any issues with his body. But we also haven't gone up and down for an extended period of time. It's we've kind of managed that. When we do play, it's 2 or 3 possessions max. So it's not like a game where you're going up and down for a couple minutes. And so we haven't crossed that bridge yet. But on the stuff we're doing, he's had no issues so far, and the hope is that the stuff we're doing, like I said, there may be some times where we like I said, trial and error a little bit this summer where, all right, we got to fix that or correct that, and I think just getting everybody on the same page. But he's, obviously would be a huge, I think a huge addition if we can get him back at the level he was, before he went down there about 4 or 5 games in.
So you keep the air conditioning set cold at the gym?
That's right, that's right, exactly. As cold as we can, for sure.
You've been through last 2 years here, pretty big jumps, presumably in the NIL revenue sharing space, and having to handle that. But can you just address how that process has been for you the last 2 years and where you see it going from here?
Yeah.
I mean, has it been a kind of a bad experience in some ways in dealing with the money aspect, or?
I think it's just a different experience. I don't know if it's good or bad. I mean, I think it's good that that players are getting paid and for what they bring. I think there was a long time where these players are bringing in billions of dollars in TV contracts, and you couldn't get them a sandwich. They couldn't. I mean, so the pendulum swung. They started doing cost of attendance and doing other things and loosening the rules. And I think there's probably, like in most things, there's probably things are maybe skewed way over here, and now maybe they're skewed way over here. And there's probably somewhere in the middle that is probably going to be where things land, just because I don't know that, it can continue in the vein it is. Just, I mean, I would assume at some point, if for schools that have big-time football, big-time basketball, if it's going to cost you eventually, $50 million for your football team and $30 million for the schools will just go bankrupt if they need somebody to rein them in, because they'll just go bankrupt themselves trying to fund them, right? So for me, it's not been a bad experience. It's just been different. I mean, none of us got into coaching to do that part, to be to negotiate deals and all that stuff. But it's a part of where it is now. This is what it is. You adapt to it, and I think every single guy that we got, I felt very good about that we were very fair with them and they were very fair with us. I don't think there's a guy in the portal or a guy really that returned that probably couldn't have got more if they wanted just to go out find the highest bidder and just wait it out until somebody threw the biggest bag at them. I don't think any one of those guys is here because of money. I think you want guys that are here for the right reasons. Certainly, no one's here for free, but besides my son and Isaac, but I think they were treated fairly by us. I think we did right by them, and I think on their end, none of them were like, hey, we were the highest bidder and we just outbid everybody for them, and they did that. Like, that's the part of, they came here because they wanted to be a part of this program. What we were selling with, work environment, culture, how we operate, how we play, how we can improve their games, how we can add value to them as players. I think those guys, saw that, felt that, were like, okay, hey, this is what I want to do. This is where I want to be. And so whether it was the 4 high major guys that we signed, or Quentin and Paul coming up from lower levels, all those guys could have stayed on the market, made more money. So I feel very confident with what we did this summer. But again, it's not something where when we got into coaching, like, yeah, I can't wait to negotiate deals and sit in there and have conversations with agents about. But I usually defer those to the staff, and then when it gets to the actual time to strike the deal, that's when I talk to the agents. Otherwise, I would just be talking to agents all day. I let the assistants do that. I have enough people to talk to. I don't want to be talking to agents all day long.